Florida's Board of Education approved what they're calling standards for African American history. I feel like they didn't talk to any African Americans, because we could have told them about the history, and nor have anyone seemingly gone to the Smithsonian to find out anything. You know, there are all of these former slaves who have given their testimony. You can go to the Smithsonian and hear them. So apparently they all think it's a lie. But the board defended the standards. I'm sorry for laughing, because it's so shocking. Vice President Kamala Harris went to Jacksonville to give her thoughts. Let's take a look.
They want to replace history with lies. Middle school students in Florida to be told that enslaved people benefited from slavery. High schoolers may be taught that victims of violence, of massacres, were also perpetrators. I said it yesterday. They insult us in an attempt to gaslight us. And we will...
Well, guys, man, the only people trying to actually gaslight you is Kamala Harris, Whoopi Goldberg. Again, they are the ones lying to you. The state of Florida, they're not lying to you. They're not in any way saying that being a slave was beneficial. You know, that being a slave was somehow better than not being a slave. It was somehow good to be a slave. No, they're not saying that one bit. What they're saying, again, is that some slaves were able to take skills that they learned, they had, and applied them to benefit themselves, especially post-slavery. Again, that's what they're saying. In no way are they saying that it's good to be a slave. In no way. Again, they said over and over again that slavery was abhorrent. It was a difficult time. It was a horrible time for slaves. You know, again, they weren't free. They had to do what the slave master told them to do. And sometimes, man, it was good. Things were not good for them at all. But again, they are taking that and they're twisting it. I'm going to put up the statement, man, from the members of Florida. I got it right here. Members of Florida's African American History Standards Work Group. And, I'm going to read that statement that they made to you. And again, man, show you exactly what they did. There's a statement from Dr. William Allen and Dr. Frances Presley Rice, which are members of Florida's African American History Standards Work Group. And they said every standard, benchmark, and benchmark clarification was developed using a methodical process within our work group. Our work group began in February and worked through May to ensure the new standards provide comprehensive and rigorous instruction on African American history. We proudly stand behind these African American history standards. There have been questions raised about language within a benchmark clarification of standard, and it gives number, which says instruction includes how slaves develop skills which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit. The intent of this particular benchmark clarification is to show that some slaves developed highly specialized trades from which they could benefit. This is factual and well documented, and they give the examples like blacksmiths and the names, shoemakers names, fishing and shipping, and they get some names, tailors, whatever, teachers, in the attempt to reduce slaves to just victims of oppression, fails to recognize their strength, courage, and resiliency during a difficult time in American history. Florida students deserve to learn how slaves took advantage of whatever circumstances they were in to benefit themselves and the community of African descendants. It's disappointing, but nevertheless unsurprising, that critics would reduce months of work to create Florida's first ever standalone strain of African American history standards, to a few isolated expressions without context. We encourage everyone to view these robust standards for themselves. Guys, I'm going to stick with an interview that Dr. William Allen did with the ABC News. Man, Dr. William Allen, again, he's one of the ones that wrote the statement that I just read. And he's one of the members, man, of the Florida African American History Standards Work Group.
There's been a little bit of backlash to these standards that were put out, and like you said, that these were done in open sessions so the public could listen or watch along. What would you say to critics who say these standards have set education back?
Well, I can't answer critics whom I haven't seen or heard. The only criticism I've encountered so far is a single one that was articulated by the vice president, and which was an error. As I stated in my response to the vice president, it was categorically false. It was never said that slavery was beneficial to Africans. What was said, and anyone who reads this will see this with clarity, it is the case that Africans proved resourceful, resilient, and adaptive, and were able to develop skills and aptitudes which served to their benefit, both while enslaved and after enslavement.
So you would say that you're standing by these standards, even though the vice president was very verbose yesterday.
Well, I will repeat to Mr. McCarty that I'm not claiming authorship, but I'm certainly willing to stand behind the work of my members in the task force and to stand behind the collaborative process. I have read, of course, all the standards. I am quite confident in their validity and their historical accuracy and their motivations and intent.
Amid all of this, do you think the wording should be amended?
I do not. No, I think it would be effectively to erase people's history.
I didn't do it, and I wasn't involved in it. But I think what they're doing is I think that they're probably going to show some of the folks that eventually parlayed, being a blacksmith into doing things later in life.
What are you talking about? Parlayed? What? Did you not see Roots? Did you not read it? What the? Okay. Let me throw it to y'all before I get in trouble again.
I live in Florida.
Uh-huh.
I have been spitting mad about the culture wars that Ron DeSantis has been creating. So when he says that he has nothing to do with it, that's, and why is it? Because he's passed legislation. He's appointed a bunch of lackeys and minions to put that legislation into effect. He has created the environment that has led to this. What they say is that the updated standards now say that enslaved people develop skills that could be applied for their personal benefit. Slavery was the darkest moment of American history.
Let's be honest right here, Anna. Again, the only one creating controversy and culture wars is you. You and Whoopi Goldberg and, Sandy Holston and, people like Kamala Harris, people on the left. Man, again, they're the only ones lying and creating conflict on purpose. Again, what they're trying to do is try to, again, throw shade all over Governor Ron DeSantis. Again, they're trying to portray him in the most negative light possible. And again, nobody's saying ever that being a slave is good. Nobody's ever condoning that, people being bought and brought over here is right. In no way, shape, or form is anyone saying that. That is coming from you. You're the one that's saying, that's what they're basically saying. That was the darkest time during American history and whatever. And man, it's not that I don't disagree with you. I do. But they're not saying that. That is not what they're doing. they're saying that there were some slaves that were able to kind of overcome their conditions and use the skills that they acquired to benefit themselves, especially post-slavery. That's all they're saying. That's it. They're not saying anything other than that. They're talking about a story of overcoming, of doing something for themselves and the black community after slavery. That's what they're talking about. They're not trying to whitewash anything. Again, this kind of stuff right here is you lying, you being divisive. And this is the kind of stuff, man, that's got to stop.
I reached out to DeSantis' team this weekend, honestly in hopes that there was some decent explanation here. And basically what I got from them was, well, there were some black educators and scholars who contributed to this, and it's been on the books for over a decade. Well, a lot of things have been on the books for over a decade that shouldn't be, and they're bad and they're terrible. My friend Will Hurd, I think, said it better than I could have, which was, it was literally the most dehumanizing institution, subjugated people as property because they lacked any basic rights and freedoms.
And man, you people are really horrible. You really are, because again, in no way is he saying at all that being a slave was good. In no way. In no way. But again, man, you're wondering why, what kind of answer, man, his folks could have given you. Man, that's it. Right there. And you're saying, oh, he has some black scholars and whatever that looked over this. And man, again, yes, he did. But it wouldn't matter if they're white or black or whatever, man. Again, that is history. And they're teaching history. They're teaching that slavery was horrible. It was abhorrent. But they're also teaching that black people were able to take what they learned somewhere and, again, post-slavery, overcome, go in the right direction. Again, even though they faced horrible abuse, they were able to go forward the best way that they could, and they were able to build something for themselves. Again, what is wrong? What country do we live in to where saying something like that can be taken as wrong?
You son of a